Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, the number one fear for most American families, part one of our series on college funding with Brock Jolly, the college funding coach. Welcome to the segment, Brock.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here.
Man, I love your name here, your moniker in the marketplace. You're the coach.
That's right.
Really, I have never found anything so needy, not even retirement planning at this level, college funding. And this is not a do-it-yourself activity.
Well, it's like you said. I mean, so many families, their biggest financial fear is how they're going to pay for their kids' college education, right? A lot of families, they've set money aside for retirement, they've bought the house, they're doing the right things, but then all of a sudden, these human beings come along for whom they're responsible, and they need to pay for college. And it's often, you know, sometimes we see families where it's not until sophomore, junior, even senior year where the light bulb goes off, and it's, how in the world are we going to pay for this and still retire one day? So
it's your experience that most American families have not prepped for college education for the kids?
I would say not prepped adequately. Right? I mean, maybe they've done something, but a lot of times, I mean, with the cost of education going up like it is, I mean, just exponentially higher and higher every single year, how do you do it and still, you know, manage to live life and plan for retirement and all the other financial strains on your money?
Well, let's talk about it, because if this is a warranted fear, I believe personally you cannot do this by yourself. You have to have a professional and somebody that their forte, like Brock, has. This is what he does. He's a planner, but in this area, this is his forte. Let's walk through some of the things that you talk about. Number one fear, I get that. I totally get that. But what about how do I pay for college? I have these kids. I want them to be educated. I want everything good for them. I don't know if I have the money for it. I don't know the resources to go to. This is what this show's all about this week. So let's talk through all the things. We're going to set up the whole segment and then walk it through so our people can understand it.
Sounds great.
I'm thinking of, when I'm looking at that 73% of Americans, according to your stats here, have no money set aside. I mean, I thought that was a retirement stat for a second.
Right.
So when you say no, you mean zero.
Zero.
And you just said something that scared me. You said that people are coming in, they're already into some of these senior year, and they haven't even considered anything.
I mean, you ever want to see deer in headlights? Yeah. That's kind of what it is, right? They come in and say, to your point, they want to launch their children out into the world. They're passionate about it, but in many cases don't know where to start, don't know how to do it. And I think that's where our team can really be a value-added resource.
Okay, so I know I have to do this. I don't know. There's so many things out there. How do I do FAFSA? The Fed, the Pell Grant, right? Coverdell. How about 529 plans? I've even heard alternative annuities, life insurance. I mean, I've heard all kinds of ideas. I don't even know, as a consumer, I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, and that's what's sort of daunting in a lot of cases, right? And what I always say is it's about creating a strategy, not about a product. And what I mean by that is you can't go out, and any of those that you just named are not necessarily going to be the silver bullet that people are looking for. I think if you've got a goal of sending your children to college and also retiring one day, the key is you've got to create a comprehensive strategy to be able to do it.
Until my generation retired, I never saw the correlation between retirement and college planning.
Sure.
But I see it now. We're the sandwich generation, so we call people my age. We've been paying our long-term care for our parents, and we have these tuition for our kids. We've not paid down our mortgage. We're really up against it. So I want to get into where we're correlating this. I don't want to go ahead and send my kids to school and my retirement account has zero.
Yeah.
So how do you address both? Because they're really kind of correlated now.
Well, and I think, too, it's so many variables in this discussion, because it's, like you said, how do you take care of mom and dad, right? Which is a stress on a lot of parents these days. And people are living longer. People don't die from the things that they used to die from. And not only that, but the cost of college has gone up exponentially more than anything else in the economy.
Even greater than regular medical and health insurance.
Virtually everything.
Unbelievable. Well, I don't know how to defend against that. That's why you're here. I want to know how to address and how to approach some of the issues. Now, I'm looking at our visual. It says only 43% of that group choose to attend the first school of their choice. So they have in mind maybe a school, but that's never the one they attend. Over half.
Yeah, that's a lot of them, right? Because the question is the critical question is why, right? They don't have money set aside. 75% of students are accepted at their first choice school, which is great. but they don't attend. 43% actually attend.
Is there a reason why people don't attend?
And I think that's the key. 62% said they couldn't afford it. 25% said they were offered no aid, and 60% said money was the #1 factor in that decision.
So really, when we're making decisions, I'm not trying to match up my major with the college that provides the best training for that major.
That's right, and fit is so critically important. We'll talk about that a little later, I'm sure.
But money's driving this whole thing.
Absolutely.
It just is. So if I'm not an athlete with a scholarship, if I'm not on some, I had a GPA that was perfect and I had an unbelievable ATC, SAT score, I'm really sitting here looking at a lot of options here, and a lot of them might turn out to even be loans.
Well, and it's, again, these are all the variables. So how do you do it? How do you find that right fit? How do you pay for it? How do you prepare adequately, right? Because what we want is we want our students, when we launch them into the world, we want them to have options at their disposal. That way they can make decisions on this critically important life decision from a position of strength. And I think that's so critical.
I want to bring up this next slide because to me, this issue here, and listen, we're guilty, baby boomers. I deal with seminars all the time. Did you have a budget? No, your whole entire marriage, you never had a budget. You don't have a retirement plan. I've never seen a greater need for a plan, a strategy than college planning. And again, I think it's one of these things where this is not a consumer do-it-yourself issue. So that's why I want you on here as a professional. This is your main forte, your area of expertise. When we're talking about a plan, I'd be okay if it was just one child.
You're right.
But I got 2, 3, 4.
Right.
How do I do this?
Well, and so often we do about 500 of these seminars a year around the country, and one of the questions that I or my team members always ask is, who here has a goal of one day being able to retire? And after a quick second of thinking about it, most of the hands go up, and maybe there's a little laugh to that. But I say college is kind of that last big hurdle before retirement. And to your point, one child, okay, like it's a big number, but I can do it.
That's doable.
Right? 2 kids, 3 kids, 4, 5, 6, right? It gets to be a little extreme. And how do you do it, again, and still retire and not have to eat ramen noodles or, hand out the smiley face stickers at the Walmart or whatever it may be, right? And so, again, that's where it's got to be a comprehensive plan. And I think the problem is, in a lot of cases, we see families where they're putting money aside for retirement, right? Where do most families have most of their money? 2 places. It's in the equity in their homes, and it's in their retirement plans, which is great for retirement. It's not so great when you need to send that, 2.3 children to college. You need liquidity, you need cash flow. And there's so many misperceptions around, will I qualify for need-based aid? Right? A lot of families think, well, I live in this area. There's no way I could qualify for need-based aid. Or families hear, well, there's so much money out there for college. And they don't draw that line in the sand to determine, will I qualify for need-based aid? And our goal is to, first and foremost, draw that line and then determine, do I go down path A or do I go down path B?
Brock, I have people making decisions on college based on their conversations with their neighbors. My kid didn't get in, you're not going to get in. And I have found that this is one of the places where you cannot compare yourself with other people.
That's exactly right. And it's sort of like making stock picking decisions from your colleague at the water cooler at work, right? I mean, maybe they tell you half of the story. They always tell you it's like catching the big fish, right? They tell you when their stock did phenomenally well. They don't tell you when it went down by 20%, right? So things like that, I think you've got to create a strategy. There are so many variables in this. You've got to create a strategy that works for your family.
Okay, now, and I'm sure that you're a national brand, a national firm, so is it, how much difference is on location? I mean, different states with different participation. How different is it?
Yeah, it's everywhere around the country. Again, that's one of the variables, right? Because, the question that a lot of parents, I talk with parents around the country, and they'll say, my kid can go to any school they want as long as it's an in-state public school, right? And sometimes I would tell you, look, I live in Virginia, the University of Virginia, William and Mary, Virginia Tech, James Madison. These are tough schools to get into, right? And so what I would tell you is maybe there's an option. What if your child could go to an out-of-state or a private school and pay the same cost as that in-state public? And the problem is most parents don't even understand that may be an option. I think that's critically important to understand.
So we need a coach to walk us through this, to show us in and out of state, private versus state-oriented universities, and understand all that's available. To me, this is a huge issue. Don't forget to watch our next segment on the little-known secrets of paying for college, part 2 of our series on college funding. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.